Hey everyone, welcome to Kosmotheoria. I'm one of your hosts, Michael,
And I'm David.
And I'm Joe.
and today we want to talk about a special topic, especially for this time of the year, Halloween, right? Mm-hmm. And I have a couple of questions just to see what y'all think, and we're going to talk about the origins of Halloween, why people celebrate it, and etc. So let's just start it off. So if I mention the word Halloween, what comes to mind?
Ghost.
Ghosts, scary movies,
Witches.
witches,
Yeah.
trick or treating, pretty much the whole theme of Halloween that we usually celebrate.
Right.
Costumes.
Costumes. Right. What kind of games come into mind?
I actually never played games when it came to
Comes to Halloween?
yeah.
You never played
yeah.
bobbing for apples or... I mean, I guess you can consider trick-or-treating a game, maybe, right? No?
Possibly.
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that there's other games that people play, when it comes to parties and stuff, but also, like we mentioned, costumes, candy, etc., right? So Halloween is pretty much a billion-dollar industry. Just think about all the things that we mentioned, how much people consume all those things, the costumes, the alcohol, the candy, the food. It's the second, I mean, if you want to call it a holiday, right? It's the second most expensive one. It's second to Christmas. Obviously, Christmas is more expensive. But when it comes to quote unquote holidays, if you can consider Halloween a holiday, which I don't, but personally, it's second to being the most expensive. It's crazy.
That is crazy. I never thought about that, actually.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's that's why you see it everywhere. It's marketed really good. Like whenever stores close, what does it become? Spirits of Halloween or something like that? It's like a costume.
Spirit Halloween.
Spirit Halloween, yeah. So it's crazy if you just kind of see that everywhere when like Macy's closes down or something. That's what comes up, right? And it doesn't matter the time of year. It's just there. It's like, really? I guess we have places if you like to shop for costumes, right?
Not only that, it's only one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Christmas, at least, is like, well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say it because there's some people that celebrate Dia de los Muertes.
Yeah.
De los Muertos, perdón. So sorry, so it's just the Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
That's especially around Mexico and stuff. It's from November 1st to the 3rd, I believe. 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I think some even start on the 31st of October, 1st and 2nd, maybe all the way to the 3rd of November. But let me ask you this: do you celebrate it? Halloween?
I haven't gone trick or treating in a minute, to be honest.
Yeah.
My cousins have parties.
Okay.
But that's about it.
Do you dress up?
Not really. No.
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 I was gonna ask, if you've ever dressed up, what was your favorite costume you've had?
You know what? I think the only time I dressed up was after a soccer game,
Yeah.
and all they did was painted a scar, and I was a zombie.
You were a zombie with the scar?
I was a zombie.
Wow. That's original.
Yeah.
That's original.
I don't recall nothing, honestly.
Do you celebrate it?
I don't celebrate it.
Okay. So since we don't celebrate it, because I don't celebrate it either, but to each their own, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think of the people that celebrate it? Should they?
It's like you said, to each their own. But I mean, should they?
No.
No. Well, yeah. It's a
Yeah, no, yes and no. It
yes
just
and
depends.
no. Yeah, yes and no.
We live in a free country, right? We can do what we please, it's in a way, right?
Exactly.
Well, what if you knew of the origins of Halloween, and which we're going to talk about, and once you hear the origins, we'll see what you think. Have y'all read anything about the origins of Halloween?
I haven't. Never.
No?
Actually.
Okay, so I'll talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to go into every single detail, but just to the basics, if you will. Now, it does get a little dark, so I'm not going to go into too many details, just because depending on the viewers, they can that this is the whole point of this, is just to kind of show information, provide information. It's up to you to do what you want to do with the information. It's out there, from the History Channel to Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, Bing.com, whatever you want to use, right? The information is out there. So this is just what I've gathered over the years, what I've experienced, and what I've seen testimonies from ex-Satanists, witches, you name it. So Halloween obviously didn't start with the name Halloween. It was celebrated years, part of the first centuries out there. close to what we call now Ireland and Scotland, around that area. The Druids, Celtics. So there was a celebration of welcoming the winter, the dark days, if you will. It was the Celtic New Year. So in a way, because they didn't really believe in God, which in the Christian faith, right? They didn't believe in him. They believed in their own gods, and they were even, worshiping demons and things like that, which I'll get in a second. But they welcomed the darkness, if you will. And so in their minds, it was the darkness defeating the light. Because, it was more dark winter days, dark, things like that. So that's pretty much what they were doing. And besides that, it was also a way of them honoring the dead, whether it be their ancestors, later on in the future, saints, etc. Right? But and then that's, nowadays they call it the Day of the Dead too. Like we were mentioning, Dia de los Muertos. They would pretty much what that means. They believe that spirits would cross over from the netherworld or the other world, and they would come in and pretty much do as they please on this and on our realm, if you will, in this realm. So they would cross over, even evil spirits. It wasn't just people's ancestors. They believe that even evil spirits would come, and that's crazy, right? Just to kind of think about that for a second.
But why that day though?
Just because they believed that there was darkness, and since it was more easier for them, if you will, and it was just kind of like a custom. And I'll get into more details of what they would do when they would come over here. But it's a good question. Why around that time? It's just a way of celebrating. Kind of like, when we wait for Christmas, it's just a specific time of the year.
True.
Spring, Easter, you think of Easter, right? Summer, you think of certain things. So you can only do certain things at a time. And in their mind, and in their, I guess, belief, if you will, they believe that it was around that time that they would cross over and do the things. That's why they would leave treats out there for them.
What do you think is like shorter days?
Shorter days, yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you really think about it, I think the shortest season out there is winter,
right?
In our time. So I'm assuming it was the same at the time. I didn't really dive into the timing, but I did hear from scholars or read from scholars saying that it was because of the dark days, more nights than anything. It was easier for the spirits to come and are able to blend in, are able to do what they want to do, right?
Right.
So back then it wasn't called Halloween, it was called Samhain. So it's spelled Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain. So it was just, again, a way for them to celebrate the winter days, other spirits coming from the other world. So October nowadays is the main month for witchcraft and human sacrifice, which we'll get in a second. People are like, whoa, Michael's human sacrifice. What are we getting into? We were talking about parties and costumes and Halloween, and all of a sudden we'll get into that in a second. But it's just really interesting. And then this is, again, coming from ex-Satanists, ex-witches that would say, hey, look, this is what we did. You don't even know what's going on behind closed doors, which we'll kind of get into in a little bit.
And it's crazy. I mean, not only that, not only obviously the ex-Satanists, whatever they did behind closed doors, but also like the supernatural or spiritual, like when you see videos of like ghosts. Obviously you don't see the actual ghost, but paranormal activities. Yeah. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really think about it, going back to what we asked, what do you think associates with Halloween, or what comes to mind? We talked about certain things, but movies. Halloween, Michael Myers.
Yeah, Michael Myers.
Jason. All these scary movies, right? Like you said, Paranormal Activity. Yeah. It's a scary movie. So all these movies, why are they so influenced more around the October time, Halloween time? Because again, people might think, well, you're kind of it's far-fetched. You're kind of, you're stretching a little bit, Mike. But I feel like they do it on purpose. It's a message that they try to portray out there for us to kind of, and I'll get into that in a second. I'm always saying that, but it's just, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. But it's one of those things to where, in the origins, like I said, that we're talking about ghosts and things like that. Well, they didn't worship God of the Christians, of the Hebrews, if you will. They worship other gods, other demons. Like, for instance, a goddess that they really worship was Lilith. Lilith, yes. And so she was a goddess. Apparently she controlled men's sexuality, and she was just able to possess many things. It was crazy. It's a crazy, and she's written a lot about it's called the epic. The Epic of Gilgamesh. So if you ever look that up, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it kind of talks about that. And
what is it, a book or what?
It's like a tablet, Kind of think of it like the Ten Commandments in a way, but old school writing, old art writing. I don't know if it was in scripts or not, but it's like if you look it up, it's like tablets. It's like stone tablets. It's crazy, and I'm pretty sure there's books about her and everything. A lot of people written about her. They're still to this day she's still celebrated. They have the Lilith's fair. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's crazy because her sacred symbolism was an owl. So an owl is considered wise, old, and wise, right? So owl is something celebrated also to this day. Have you heard of the Bohemian Grove?
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove much, right? So Bohemian Grove in the Bohemian Grove they have this big old 40-foot statue of the owl made out of wood. And so, I mean, come on, you kind of want to put 2 to 2 together. It's all drawing in and connecting. It's all connected one way or another. So that was one of her secret symbolized her in a way as an owl, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Sorry.
No, yeah.
You said she was like a goddess, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like a she demon, if you will.
Demon. Like,
yeah, she was able to morph into many things apparently.
In that case, it's like the lechuza in the Mexican folk. Well,
Mexican folklore.
Yeah. So La Lechuza she's obviously an owl, but a shapeshifter, like a witch.
Yeah. I guess something similar to that. Either that was inspired by her,
right,
or it's technically her.
Yeah, which
was crazy. And it's mentioned a lot. Some people say that she was mentioned in other books of the Bible later on, but not given a name in the sense. It's crazy. That's another topic for another day, right?
Yeah.
But this is just something that one of the many gods that they would celebrate, or she demon, whatever you want. She was considered a demon. It's crazy, the story behind it, and and like I said, it could tie in with the Bohemian Grove. I mean, whoever is interested, I definitely recommend for y'all to look into Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones talks about it. All these people.
Shout out to Alex
Jones, right?
And Mark Dice.
Mark Dice too.
Oh, yeah, Mark Dice.
A lot of these people who have been, trying to expose these people, the elite. We'll just call them that. I don't want to say the Illuminati, but the elite, if you will. So they've been trying to be exposed, and I don't want to get away from the topic here, but it's all connected.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk more about connections that lead on to this, but yeah. So the Druids is what they were also called. Celtics, Druids worshiped again many gods. Another one was the stag god, which I'll get into in a second. But so what they would do for these gods too, they would do many animal sacrifices, but it wouldn't stop there.
Of course,
it was human sacrifices too. So yes, like you said, of course, and they would do it within bonfires. Bonfires, I kind of looked it up, and it was back then spelled bone, BONE, fires.
Really?
And it has a lot to do with the human body.
Sacrificing them.
Yeah, so bonfires, now we say bonfires, but technically back then it was bonfires.
That's crazy because you never think about it. Obviously, you see a bonfire, you're not thinking.
No, obviously you're thinking of marshmallows. You're thinking of s'mores, a guitar. Everybody's singing "Kumbaya," right? But a lot of it. I'm telling you, almost everything that we see to this day, a lot of traditions, customs, rituals, have origins, have meanings. Whether they be dark, whether they be in the light, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, I mean, who doesn't like to get together in a cold night and having a bonfire with your friends and family? Nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, the origin of it. It's just, one of the main reasons they would use it is for human sacrificing. As an offering to, whether it be Lilith, whether it be their stag god, whether it be whoever. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so they would also not only sacrifice humans, but they would also sacrifice children, babies. And, I know it's kind of hard to talk about nowadays. People don't want to listen to it. People are like, oh, this is where I draw the line. But it's necessary to talk about. It's necessary to talk about. The elite to this day still do these things behind closed doors. So they would sacrifice children. They would also drink their blood. Adrenochrome, right? For those who don't know about that, research it. Definitely interesting. To say the least. And I say interesting in the aspect of it's going to be eye-opening.
Right.
Obviously, I hate the fact that these innocent children are being sacrificed and used and abused. But, God, there's a God that's watching everything. But
for sure.
So, drinking the blood, what does that remind you of? Vampires. So that's another thing.
I was going to say fruit punch.
Fruit punch, wow. So fruit punch, right? No, it's vampires. That's one of the main, how those ideas came about. Vampires apparently originated from the drinking of the blood. Mm-hmm. Like when they drink blood, they stay what? Young.
Right.
They stay young. So that's also the same with witches, which I'll get in a couple of seconds, but or in a minute. But
makes sense.
so right, so all these, and they believe that too. Why would they drink their blood for what? And it was just for, they would either drink it for immortality, hence the vampires,
Right.
witches, if you will. Example, the movie Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have seen the movie, the original. I know the new one just came out.
Never seen it.
So it's just 3 witches that if they get called upon, and for them to stay alive or something, they have to eat
To stay
children.
young, yeah.
Just to stay young, they stay alive. They have to. If they don't after a certain time, they vanish or they die. Right.
Right.
So they have to eat children.
Is it a PG movie?
I mean,
Back in the day, it was. Yeah.
back in the-
I mean, it is. It's considered a PG movie.
So
because there's no. But yeah, now as an adult, you see it through a different lens. I guess.
you did exactly. So like when I first watched the first movie, this came out years ago, over 20 years ago, I believe. It was kind of scary, not gonna lie. I mean, we were children, and they're like, "What the heck? Eat children for what? Why?"
Yeah.
And nowadays, you're like, okay, they're gonna eat children, whatever.
Right.
It's just a movie, right? But hey, they used to do that back in the day. To this day, they probably still do, and then I know they still do. But obviously, that's for another topic for another day. But
Yeah.
so they did that. So one for immortality, or one to stay young, their own the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
For them to stay alive, to stay strong, to stay fit. And so what they would do is they would terrorize these children to get their adrenaline up to a certain level, and then that's when they would kill them, drain their blood, and drink it. That's how they adrenochrome, right?
Right.
So it's crazy. It's sad, really. And that's what they would do. They would do that to stay young, to stay healthy, or whatever they want to call it, right? But why do they need to stay alive? What do they need to do to stay alive? Is, like I said, to eat children, and they would do that. And the elite, they still to this day believe that they can stay young and stay healthy with drinking the blood. It's a custom. It's a ritual for them. It's very sacred for them. It's just like in the movie Hocus Pocus. It's very important. It's something that they need. At some point, they become so addicted to where, like, if they don't have it, their body starts to change.
Yeah.
They start to become old. It's crazy. I don't
Literally
know if
life or death.
yeah, I've seen pictures of Johnny Depp and or other people, all these celebrities. I don't want to, again, these are amazing topics. Anything we talk about, we can go to a lot of rabbit holes here.
I was about to say, yeah,
I'm gonna try to pull myself back to what we're really talking about, right? But again, we were just talking about that, where they would sacrifice children, unfortunately, and they believed in the power. They believe in blood because why blood? Is because they believed in the power that was in the blood, just like in the blood of Jesus.
Right.
Obviously, this is just a cheap imitation of the true power, which is in the blood of Jesus. But to them, it doesn't matter if you believe it in or not. It matters because they believe it.
Exactly.
They, the elite, the people who still do this to this day, whether it be back in the days or even now. People are like, well, that's back in the day, man. I mean, I'm pretty sure people have changed. Nah, it's probably gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's gotten a lot worse, celebrities and things like that. But anyways, it's just, again, a cheap imitation to true power. But so what they would also do, speaking of sacrifices, they would go to the man of the house. These are the druids I'm talking about, right? This is some of the customs that they've had. We've talked about other spirits coming from the other world, ancestors, or even evil spirits, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice. So what they would do is they would go to the man of the house and say, hey, you need to give up somebody for our sacrifices. If they agreed, they would be given a pumpkin with a special face carving. Well, sorry, let me back up. Back then in Europe, they didn't use pumpkins. We use pumpkins here. Over there, they didn't have pumpkins, so they used turnips. It's like a special fruit or something like that. So it's something similar to pumpkins, but it's a turnip.
Same size or?
A little smaller, I think. I mean, I think it varies. Just like there's different sizes of pumpkins. But anyways, so they would use these turnips. And so if they agreed and gave up one of their loved ones, which is crazy, to be sacrificed, they would be given a turnip, they would put a special lighting, and I'll tell you how they kept that lit later. But they would put it in front of their home. So that way when the spirits would come, they would see that, they would leave it alone. If they refused, what they would do is they would put a curse on that home. And with blood, they would draw a hexagram on that door or on their house, which whenever the evil spirits would come, they would get attracted to that, or they would see that, and it was like an invitation for them, and they would go in that house, possess people, terrorize people. It's insane. Like, that's the last thing you wanted to do. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And think about what Moses had to do in the plague, right? Whenever the angel of death came, what did he put?
Yeah, the blood of the lamb.
Exactly. So I'm telling you, like, all this stuff is connected.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff is just, there is power in the blood. Bloodlines are so important still to this day.
Yeah.
So, like,
for sure.
I mean, come on. and people are like, nah, Michael, this is crazy. This is Hollywood. You watch too many movies. You're a conspiracy theorist. Well, yeah, you can call me that.
You watch too much Alex Jones.
Yeah, sorry, shout out again to Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's really important to kind of like just try to look at this with an open mind,
Right.
and for this to kind of open up your eyes. The information is out there.
And it's like you said, even though whoever's watching may not believe it, but they do. And that should be more than enough to just, get you interested or
Right.
start doing your own research and looking stuff up.
Exactly. And, going along with what we're talking about, the origins of Samhain, nowadays Halloween, they would, like I said, after that's one of the things that they would do too. These druids would go to their houses and do all that stuff we were just mentioning. But Samhain has many satanic influence, if not rooted by satanic, rituals and offerings and worship and things like that. I guess, if you will, Wiccans from Wiccans, which is with the witches, warlocks. Even like, for instance, some of the witches, they would keep bodies of dead animals. And from whenever these other spirits would come over, they had a body to possess. Or they would practice with these dead animals how to create spells.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, how twisted is that, right? But you could think to yourself, well, it's not too bad. I mean, it is. It's crazy. And, they would do this to not only practice, but also cast on people, like I said, who refused to participate or who refused to give up a loved one. It's just mind-blowing, man.
When you said keep something about the animal, I thought about a chicken leg. I don't know why.
Are you hungry?
Right?
We just had McDonald's, man.
We just had a chicken nuggets. No, but like I said, man, it's a lot of these rituals may seem like it's crazy, like, I guess, if you will, just very ridiculous, really kind of absurd.
Right.
But man, I'm telling you, there's so many things that they did that they still do to this day that people think ridiculous, but to them it's power. Again, it doesn't matter if you believe in it.
Right.
It matters because they believe it, and they practice it, and they, exercise it.
Like the Epstein Island. But
Epstein
again, that's another rabbit hole.
That's another rabbit hole, which we're definitely going to get into pretty soon in our podcasts. But, I know a lot of social media, in social media, a lot of these platforms, people get canceled just because you want to spread the truth or just a different type of information. Who's to say? Like I said, when you look up in History Channel or their website or about the spirit or the origins of Halloween, they don't really talk about human sacrifices. They don't really talk about all these things. So this is just getting more deep, and this is coming from testimonies, again, from people who were in this realm, who lived in it, who just didn't hear from it, or who didn't read from it. They lived in it. They participated in this. So go into one of those things. It's like I said, they wouldn't use pumpkins. They'd use turnips, right? So again, they would use these things to terrorize people. Another thing too, like I said, it had, besides it having a lot of satanic influences, like I said, another god that was really popular is the stag god. It's like the one with the antlers. I don't know if you have
familiar,
right? I don't know if you've seen it, but so it's the one with antlers, right? And so they also offered human sacrifices to this god, and which they believe they have a lot of connection with another god that people sacrifice. I think the Aztecs. I don't know. I forgot exactly. There's a lot of people that still do it to this day. Moloch. Moloch is another god that they do a lot of human/children sacrifices to. So it's a lot, man. It's a ritual. It's something sacred to these people, and they don't have regards towards the innocent. They don't have regards towards whatever. It's to them, it's sacred. It's got to be done.
Right.
It's crazy. Have you ever heard about that? Any of that stuff?
No.
So
that's insane. Not only that, going back to like giving up one of your family members. Imagine having to decide whether you want to. Yeah. Not only who would you give up, like
who do you choose?
Not only that, like making that decision alone, whether you want to give up a family member or you be terrorized for God knows how long.
Right. And then remember, I don't think any of these people really served or believed in Jesus at the time. And so, or in God, whatever, to free them from these things, from these evil spirits. So, because a lot of people, they invite these things in. On the contrary, they don't try to stay away from these things, which we'll talk about costumes and all these little, I guess, traditions that happen in Halloween.
Like trick-or-treaters.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But they would welcome this stuff. They would welcome all these type of, again, this is them welcoming the days, the darkness of days, the cold winter, they They're, it's the new calendar year as well. So it's crazy how all this is connected somehow. So, but yeah, so it's just crazy. Like, who do you give up? Who are you gonna decide? And tough decision.
Heck yeah.
Honestly, I could, obviously it's easy for me to say now, but if it was up to me, I would just be like, man, bring on the evil spirits. It is what it is. I'm not gonna give up a loved one.
But not only that, I mean, let's just say you didn't believe in God, and you
Right.
had to decide, knowing that either somebody in that village or whatever they lived in, you saw them go through
Yeah,
whatever they went through,
yeah. People
and then
talk.
having to decide, okay, a family member that, dude, I don't know.
That's tough.
That is tough.
Luckily, in a way, around the 5th century, there was a Christian crusade. Well, I say Christian, but the scholars really, named the Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
And at this in this particular century, it was Pope Boniface, I think is how you say it right, if I'm saying it right. But they had this Christian crusade. They were trying to win over these people to the Catholic religion. And so what they would do is they would see these traditions that these Druids, Celtics had, or the Scottish or whatever you want to call them, and they would say, hey, this is a nice little tradition that you got here, but it'd be nice if you kind of put God into this mix in a sense of way. So they didn't really take away these traditions. They kind of mixed it in with, in their
Other
way,
things.
other
Yeah.
things, right? Whether it be something religious. So not only did they celebrate the Day of the Dead for ancestors, but they also celebrated after these crusades, the saints like Saint Thomas, Saint Peter. To them, they were saints. So it wasn't just something family oriented, but it was more a religious thing, even more now too.
Right.
And I'm not talking about demons that they would worship like Lilith or Stag, but it's more like some of the saints from their
Right.
religion. But yeah, but in the 5th century, it was starting to kind of persuade people, but it wasn't that strong. Not up until the 9th century, where with Pope Gregory, he's the one that kind of influenced them even more, and even kind of persuaded them to change the name from Samhain to All Hallows Eve, which in their own term, and it kind of meant holy. I think it meant holy. So kind of to make it a holy day in a way. So All Hallows Eve, All Hallowed Eve, or whatever you want to call it, and then which with the English it turned into Halloween. Yeah, so that's kind of how the name changed and everything. So, but it's insane, like to kind of see the origins of it, the darkness that it brings and that it has as a foundation. Again, I know nowadays it's a little different, but in today's day and age, of course, when you think of Halloween, again, you're not going to be thinking of these human sacrifices. You're not going to be thinking of these things, right?
I think most people think about our age, 25, not even 21 to 30 to 40s. They all think about just going out, getting drunk, or
doing their thing,
whatever. Yeah,
having fun.
Exactly, having fun.
And that's cool and all, I guess, if you will. But one day or another, man, we're gonna be, answering for every decision we make, every thought we have, every word we say, right? And so, to those who believe in that, right? But regardless if you believe it or not,
right?
But going to what we're modern day Halloween, if you will, again, we think about parties, we think about trick or treating, for instance, costumes. How did that come about?
I don't even know.
So back then, in that Celtic time, they would out of animal skin, they would make these costumes so they can disguise themselves for many reasons. A reason would be to blend in with these evil spirits or these ancestors or spirits that come up from the other world. So that way, one, they wouldn't get terrorized or possessed, or two, just to blend in so they can kind of join the party or whatever,
right.
Just to kind of, or scare them off. Just, hey, leave me alone. I don't want nothing to do with you. So that was one of the kind of how it started. Later on in the future, they would wear it to participate in the festivities, to kind of like, hey, I'm a spirit, leave me alone. I'm doing my own thing. I want the treats too. I want the party, whatever you want to call it. So that's how it kind of costumes started. And if you notice, most of the themes of costumes, I think 80%, maybe a little less. I want to say anywhere from 70 to 80%. It's all evil stuff, like evil spirits, demons, you name it. Now, of course, it's changing. The superhero era has grown really big, especially since the Marvel movies. I think it just quadrupled everything when it comes to superheroes. But I mean, for the most part, people don't really think of heroes in a sense when it comes to Halloween. They think of, again, Michael Myers, Scream, Chucky, all these evil, Freddy Krueger, all these little scary things. Again, to not knocking anybody that likes scary movies, but in a sense, that's one of those things to kind of that associates when it comes to costumes. That's how it kind of originated. Another thing that's really traditional nowadays is pumpkins. Again, in Europe they use turnips. Over here they use pumpkins. But there is this story from a man that they call Jack of Lantern. So now and then for short they call it Jack o' Lantern, O' Lantern. So the story is, I'm gonna paraphrase everything. I don't want to get into details, but he was pretty much a trickster. He was a liar, manipulator. So what he would do, he was just a drunk. And then one day, but he would invite the devil to go drink with him. He would invite the devil to have conversations with him, right? This is how the story goes.
Really?
So one day he goes to the bar and he's, talking with the devil in the bar. And then he's like, oh man, I have no money. And he's like, hey, he convinced the devil supposedly to turn into a coin so that way he can pay. And somehow he got out of that. And he put the coin in his pocket, left the bar, but in his pocket, he also had some type of figure, like a cross figure. And so the devil couldn't come out. He didn't want to come out because of the cross. So he stayed like that. So eventually he released him. And there was he would trick him into other things, like to go up in this tree and to get something. And he would go up in this tree and he put like some type of religious figure again. He wouldn't come down. So finally it got to the point where this devil was like, man, you know what? This guy's just a manipulator. I don't want to have any association with him. So obviously God went, so eventually he tricked him to where he would say, okay, I'm sorry. About the tree, he would say, hey, if you want to come down, you can't touch my soul for a year. You can't do nothing to me for a year. If I die, you can't do nothing with me. You leave me alone. The devil agreed. He was able to come down. Later on, he kind of did the same thing, similar things to where, like, for instance, if he wanted to do something to where he's like, if I die, you can't touch me for 10 years, or you can't touch my body for 10 years, etc. Right. So these deals were going on, and so he finally died. So this man was not good enough to go to heaven. So he didn't go to heaven. Right. But the devil didn't want him in hell. So he was left to wander around the world as an evil spirit, or as a spirit. So that's why to this day they kind of considered that to be a folklore, like a story in the times.
Wait, is he the one riding the horse?
No, I think that's somebody else.
That's the Headless Knight?
The Headless Knight. I don't.
Okay.
I can kind of see the confusion where you're coming from, but I don't know. It's not him, but. So that's kind of what the jack-o'-lantern name at least came from. It's like a trickster kind of a thing. And the pumpkins or turnips, what they would use, they would light up so that way they can guide spirits to either not come to this house, don't touch this house. But what's crazy is what they would use to keep these pumpkins or turnips lit, if you will, back then, it was human fat from the sacrifices they've made. Which is, it's crazy.
Imagine the smell of that.
Dude, I don't want to know. I don't want to even smell it. No, it's not. It ain't for me. Are you smelling the mic?
Yeah.
Pull Joe Biden, just take a sniff.
Dang, that's a Joe Biden sniff right there. No offense to anybody who's Joe Biden. Hey, come on, guys, let's get serious here. No, but so that's one of the stories. Another thing that's associated with pumpkins, again, is just they would use it to guide spirits, whether to not go into. They would draw scary faces on these turnips, so that way the evil spirits could get scared or whatever. Just like, the same thing with the mask, they would draw scary faces so that way the evil spirits wouldn't touch them. But another game, I'm sorry, a game that they would use for Halloween was Bopping for Apples. I kind of mentioned it earlier. That's cool. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but the crazy thing about that is back then it wasn't how it is now. What they put a bucket of water and they put apples, you just kind of have to get it with your mouth. Right. Back then they boiled the water. Or sometimes they even say that they would use fat. They would boil the fat, put the apples in there. And the people who were going to get sacrificed, this was a game to the druids. So the people who they were going to use to sacrifice had a choice. If you can get the apple in this boiling hot water or fat, whatever it was, right? With your mouth, you'll live. We'll let you live. Go on about your life. And if they refused, either one, they would get chopped into pieces and get their blood drank, or they would just be beheaded right then and there. They would just drop on the floor, boom.
But what if it was a kid? Imagine being a kid and having to decide that.
Again, there was no remorse for innocence.
Dude, that's insane.
It's insane.
I mean, even as an adult, like right now.
And it's coming from, like, if you play, I've played it before. I went to Christian Halloween parties where they would play the Bopping for Apples. But again, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not telling people not to play those games. All I'm just saying is part of the origins of that was because it was used for that.
And low key is hard.
It is hard.
Trying to grab the apple.
And imagine you're just putting your face in a water where a lot of people are putting their faces and their saliva and their mucus. Nah, I'm good. I'll just get my apple over here.
That's immunity, dude.
That's immunity. That's how you're gonna be. We found the cure to the COVID-19.
There you go,
dude. Imagine boiling your face or getting killed or sacrificed.
Exactly. So that's kind of bobbing for apples, you know, in a sense of the origins of it. You know, it's kind of crazy to kind of look at this.
Yeah.
Another thing, obviously, that's really, 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 really popular in Halloween is trick or treating. How did that start? So back then, poor people would go to rich neighborhoods, and they would knock on people's doors, and so these rich people would give them what they call soul cakes. They were pastries, soul cakes. So they would give them these pastries to the poor people in exchange for the poor people to pray for their ancestors in their afterlife, to pray for them to have a good life or to whatever. And then so they would call that souling. So they would call it souling, S-O-U-L-I-N-G, souling. And so that's how it kind of started that way. And then eventually kids would be the ones doing that more. But they wouldn't do it for soul cakes anymore. They would be doing it for money, for food. Again, these are poor people.
Right.
They didn't have the luxury of what rich people had. So they would do this, and they would call it guising as well. So they would do this to kind of get money, to get gifts, you name it. It was just so many things. And so in that popularity, in that custom, which, believe it or not, in the U.S., it didn't become a custom until 1951, around that time of the year.
Really?
Yeah.
Like giving out candies?
Doing trick-or-treating.
What the heck?
Yeah, so around the 1950s, the beginning of the 1950s. And it became so popular even more just because Disney produced a cartoon around 1952. I think it had Donald Duck and his three little nephews. They did trick-or-treating. That's how it became a custom here.
Really?
So, yeah. And so, again, so you would think it is popular for many, many years. I mean, more than 100 years here.
Yeah.
But not really. I mean, at least becoming a custom, something nationwide. So I thought that was interesting to kind of be like, wow, you know. And of course, Disney kind of pushed it to the different level.
Always.
But, you know, again, I mean, people do it. And people are like, well, I mean, is trick-or-treating bad? I mean, hey, to each their own. You know, you got to do what you got to do with your own family, right? You're responsible for your people. But in a sense, you know, it was interesting to kind of see the origins. I mean, again, I don't think I've ever, if I remember, my parents, you know, they were really, you know, strict on that. And they didn't really let us do trick-or-treating, but just seeing people, hearing these stories, it's crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of elites, or a lot of evil people, if you will, they use this custom to steal children because it's so easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if they're not, you know, chaperoned by their parents or adults, you know?
Because where I used to live, the neighborhood is like Little Mexico, I guess you call it. But, dude, you have kids by themselves just going door to door getting candy. And then not only that, like a few years after that, back in the early 2000s, where people were injecting stuff to the candy.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Like, that's insane.
You
don't think about it at the time, whether you're the kid or the parent, really, because, I mean...
Speaking of that, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Before I forget, speaking of injecting things, who's to say they're not doing that to this day?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I was watching this testimony of this ex-Satanist. He's like, yeah, I don't know what they put in these things. He's like, what they do is they collect bones. Remember, when it comes to witchcraft, there's a lot of sacred things to them that are really twisted. Like they collect dead bones from dead people, especially if they have any diseases like cancer. And what they do, they get these bones, especially the one that has cancer, and they scrub it, and all that little dust is falling on the stuff they give out. That's one way for them to curse people. That's one way for them to wish upon sickness on other people. And they're not just wishing upon it. They're literally kind of putting those things
like
in
a spell.
Exactly. So I'm telling you, like, it's out there. You got to look it up. But they do that. It's crazy.
Dude, that's insane. Actually, I didn't know that.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, you just don't know. You don't know. We really don't know. I mean, obviously, I love free candy.
Who doesn't?
But at the same time, I mean, after that...
I'm a sweet and sour kind of guy.
Right. No, but after that Halloween where it came out with, like, people were injecting stuff to the candy, or I was like, you know what? I'd rather just buy my own.
Yeah.
Or just wait after Halloween where it isn't discount.
There you go. If you want tips on how to shop for
real.
candy,
that's another topic. That's another podcast.
That's another podcast for another day.
No, but yeah, it's insane, man.
It
you
is.
Just don't know.
And we've been desensitized. We've been conditioned to be numb to these things.
Right.
It's so normal now. It's actually not normal to not celebrate Halloween.
Right.
You're considered crazy. You're considered religious. You're considered an
Or
outcast.
not only that, you're overreacting, or you're taking it too far.
You're stretching. Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. Again, to each their own. We're not doing this to tell people to celebrate it or not. That's not our position. But it's just to kind of present these things.
That's what happens when you follow the crowd.
Yep.
You become an outcast. That's what I'm saying. Is like, you ask me if should we celebrate in general Halloween? But what are you celebrating though?
Right.
You don't do it just because someone's doing it, or your friend, your family. And
Right.
Do it while you're doing it. You know, like these words, like the bonfire, like you said. I didn't know about that. I was like, what the? You know, everything's hidden.
And there's a lot of subliminal message, if I can talk today.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to, at least like you said, know the origins of things. And again, I know when the Christian Crusade came along, they try to kind of, in a way,
Right.
not to dumb it down, if you will, to not to be too crazy, sacrificial kind of a thing, just kind of a more of a all around, hey, anybody can do this.
Right.
Whether you believe in God or whether you don't believe in God, whatever. If you want to worship the dead, worship the dead. If you want to worship the saints, worship the saints. That's kind of how they were kind of doing it. And again, to this day, we've been conditioned to this day to whenever you hear things like child sacrifices, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
Rituals.
Why do you think all these kids are getting they're like disappearing and stuff?
Exactly. Not only that, I mean, like child trafficking alone.
All that.
Exactly.
Especially here in
And all ties with money too.
Houston.
Yeah.
Is the number one city.
Yeah, all ties
And
with
it's crazy. Like
it ties with money.
A lot of money. And again, that's another $1 billion industry. But that's kind of the gist of the origins of Halloween. Again, I know there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more details. We could be here for all night, all day, if you will. So I don't really want to get into every single detail, but that's just kind of the gist of it. So whether you want to keep celebrating on it, hey, it's up to you. You do your thing. But I just try to stay away from things. But again, I'm not judging people. It's just one of the things that I choose to just not to really participate much in it. Because, we could also, which this is going to be another, again, like we said, another podcast for another time. Christmas started from a pagan tradition too.
That one, I heard that and I was like, damn.
Which
I was like, don't mess with my Christmas.
No, exactly. Don't mess with my Christmas lights. I love
Dude,
Christmas.
yeah, Christmas lights, the tree, everything.
Come
just
on,
the vibes
man.
of Christmas.
Exactly, the vibes.
Insane.
That's what it's all about. It's the vibes,
Yeah.
right? So on the topic of Halloween, I guess we'll kind of finish it off with this. What would you say your top 3 scariest movies would be?
I have a few. Well, top 3. Really, the only one that takes a cake is The Exorcist.
Why?
The Exorcist really screwed me over.
How did it screw you over?
It screwed me over when I was young. I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
And for some reason, it was me, my brother. I don't know who else was there, but it was just the kids. We're like, oh, let's watch The Exorcist, blah, 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 thinking it was going to be cool and all that. Dude, that movie screwed me up so bad. Just looking at her crawl backwards down the stairs, then her head twisting, and then the bed moving and all that. Oh, my God.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But that movie alone, really scarred me. Like, I couldn't sleep by myself for like 2 years, 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And I had to sleep with somebody, either in the same bed or in the same room. Whether it was my brother, shout out to my brother, or sleep with my parents, man. Like, I'm not even...
Shout out to your parents.
Dude, for real. Shout out to my parents. Dude, I was like 15, 16 already, still sleeping with them. I was like, what the hell?
Did you wet the bed too or what?
Yeah, no. But then that movie alone, like...
Didn't you tell me? I remember you kind of telling me the story that didn't you wake up to a scene like that?
Yeah. There's been 2 occasions where that movie has just popped up randomly. Like, in a house I used to live in, it had a theater room. Obviously, y'all remember it's
Pitch black.
pitch black, and we had 2 couches, one closer to the TV and one behind it, and I was sleeping in the one behind it, and the TV was on. I was watching something else, and I fell asleep. And mind you, it's dark, like you can't see crap except the TV. So I woke up, and I woke up to that stupid movie. Not only was it that movie, but it was the scene where you just see her face. I don't know if you guys seen the people play that game, that maze game.
Yeah.
And then that
I
face
know what you're
pops
talking about.
up.
I know what you're talking about.
Dude, that face
that scared me too.
That face was on the screen, and it was the movie. Like it was just playing.
Wow.
I
And
was
it
like,
happened
"Are
several
you
times?
Dude, yeah, it happened several times. So that one time I was like, dude, what the heck? I was by myself and I couldn't find the control to turn
Of
off
course.
the TV. So I had to walk and freaking turn off that stupid TV. I was like, dude, what the heck?
Oh, no.
But then again, it happened again when I was like 18 or 19. I went to Honduras and my mom was from Honduras. So I was staying.
Shout out to Hondurans.
Yeah. Puchica, mano. No, but I was staying with a family over there, and I was watching Big Bang Theory, and obviously it was really famous in South
Team
America.
Sheldon.
Yeah, for sure. And I fell asleep again, and of course, for some reason I wake up, and it's night, it's dark, and I was by myself. And I wake up and it's to the same scene, same movie. Like, I'm like, are you... At that point, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I just turned it off and went back to sleep. But
You're like, hi, how you doing? Bye. Boom.
for real. But not only that, the family I was staying with, they had a grandma. And the grandma had, obviously, her husband. And I was sleeping in their old room. That's where I was staying. It was their old room.
No. I know where this is going.
Dude. So that same night, she comes into the room. Obviously, I didn't know.
You were
I was asleep.
Okay.
She came into the room and she was just standing there. I was like, what? So the next day, that's what the grandkids were telling me. It's like, yeah, we had to take out my grandma. She went to the room. She was just standing there. I was like, dude, ever since then, there was two beds, two separate beds, two little twin beds.
Twin beds.
Every night I would put the freaking twin bed in front of the freaking door. I was like, dude,
nope, it's not happening again.
I'm not gonna wake up to an old lady standing right in front. Dude, I'll throw hands. I don't care.
Well, she went in there because
it was her old room.
It was her old room.
Yeah,
because of
and
her
her
husband.
her husband
She was
passed
probably
away.
sleepwalking or something.
Passed
Yeah.
away, right? Okay.
So I was like,
That's crazy.
I didn't want to think too much of it.
Right.
But
You're
at the
like,
same
whatever.
time, dude,
It's a good thing. It's a good thing you didn't wake up.
dude, if I would have woke, I kid you not, I'd probably die from a heart attack. I'll say I'll swing on her, but seeing that,
Probably just like frozen.
I just be like, I'll die. Heck no. Yeah, it's crazy.
Jeez,
yeah, that
it's-
movie.
It's crazy how one movie can have a lot of influence on you.
Hell, dude,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you said The Exorcist is one of them for sure.
Exorcist, yeah.
Any other ones that you can kind of recall?
I think Annabelle. Annabelle was
no.
one of the
I don't do
the
possessions.
movies that actually scared me the most. And I forgot. I don't know what movie it is. I don't know if it's the first or second, but it's with the one where they're in a barn or something. The girl's like in a wheelchair. Anyways, I don't know how the doll ended up under the staircase. And when she went in there, and the camera, all you see the camera is just panning.
Spoiler alert.
Right. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it now, I mean, you're missing out.
I haven't seen it now, and I don't want to see it. But go ahead.
But it was panning, and obviously it's just dark. Then there's some light, and then there's a doll. And then it keeps panning, and then it stops, and it's going to come back. I was like, okay, something's going to pop up or something, whatever. Like, it's obvious. So it goes back. You see the doll like normal. And I was like, okay. Like,
Trying to throw you off.
yeah, try to throw me off or something. And then it goes again. And mind you, I was alone,
Of course.
watching it in my room in the dark. Like, I was home alone. I was like, it's not going to scare me or whatever. Not after The Exorcist. I was like, I can handle it. But anyways, it was panning back over. And when it was panning over, you see the left shoulder of the doll. Then you see her face, and it keeps going. And then on the right-hand side is like a demon. I was like, oh, dude, I literally got so scared. I was like, what the hell? I turned on the light, and I kept on watching it.
Okay, so at least
I
you
kept on
on
watching it. Yeah. But I was scared. I was like, oh
no,
my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, it's either The Exorcist, Annabelle, and I think the one that scared me too was Paranormal Activities.
Yeah, those are
when
crazy.
it first came out.
Yeah, those are. I
Yeah,
remember they became a big hit, and people were getting scared left and right.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's crazy.
But it's crazy what a movie can do to you.
Mm-hmm.
It messes with you for sure.
David?
Oh yeah. My first favorite, just because it's just story. I mean, it was kind of scary, I guess you could say, but just a story. I love the story. It's Conjuring. That's
The
my
Conjuring?
first
Okay.
movie. And the second one is It, just because it's just a good story too. I like It. But the third one is the one that scared me when I was like 13, 12, just because it can happen to anybody in the Saw.
Saw.
I know it's just a lot of, obviously it's fake movie, but still it's like it can happen to anybody.
Get kidnapped and get tortured.
And tortured and all that torturous stuff.
Yeah.
It just really,
Yeah.
that gets to me. I'm like, ugh.
I think what's really scary for people is the stuff that could happen to them.
Reality.
The
Reality of it, yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Leprechaun.
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, mine are definitely The Exorcist from what I could finish. Or I didn't really finish the whole movie. I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. But it, like you, it kind of scarred me for life for a while. The Conjuring, even though I agree with you, the storyline is amazing. I love Patrick Wilson. He's one of my favorite actors.
Oh, yeah.
He was awesome in Aquaman too. But so in The Conjuring, I saw the second one too, but I haven't seen the third one. I just didn't feel like,
The
touching
third
that
one's
again.
kind of too much, but
What's the
it's
second
okay.
one?
The second one's when it's in London. Or
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, the old man.
Yes,
with
exactly.
the nun, right? The
That's
nun's
the-
involved.
yeah.
Oh.
Oh,
to think
dude,
about
yeah,
that.
the nun. That one's,
I'm
dude,
not-
she's creepy. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, tell me about
Yeah.
it. So The Conjuring is one. I have a lot, man. I'm not really a scary movie fan, but I've seen some. The Conjuring is one that I feel like I like the story at least. But the one that really traumatized me to this day, I have to plead the blood of Jesus on me every time I drive, is Final Destination. Final Destination movies. It's not so much the scary part, because it's not like, oh, pop out.
Right.
It's what it could happen.
Right.
They escape death, and then death follows them and eventually gets a lot of them, right? To this day, every time I drive by an 18-wheeler with full of logs, tree logs, I try to stay away. It's clear. I'm like, nope. Either I exit that and wait for it or slow down, wait for it to pass me, or I speed up. So I don't want nothing. I don't want to be near it at all. No, thank you.
But driving next to an 18-wheeler is freaky though.
It's freaky, right? So imagine what, like I said, I know this in the second one, Final Destination 2. But it's the first one was cool because it's classic, but it really traumatized me. So kind of like, man, you can't escape death.
Yeah.
But I was also, when I was a kid, I was scared of clowns, so it still scarred me. The original scarred me for life too. It's eating children, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, talking about human kid sacrifice. Things like that. I hated clowns, so yeah, it really scared me. The new ones, like, it's not too scary, but it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never seen the original, to be honest. I've
neither.
seen the new one, but I never seen the original.
To me, it's a little bit more scary because it's not so much CGI as what it is now.
Right.
So you got to watch it at least once.
Like Jeepers Creepers.
Kind of a thing. Yeah, Jeepers Creepers got crazy after the first or second one. I mean, so,
The first one was
crazy.
actually scary.
I remember we were watching it together.
Dude, oh my gosh. And then when we used to live...
Yeah, you live out in the country.
Yeah, you live in Conroe and you go in towards Cut and Shoot down 105. You know what I'm talking about. Dude, it's freaking dark. No freaking lights.
No, yeah, no.
Yeah.
No, but those are the top three, I guess, top 4 movies, if you will. So Final Destination, It, The Conjuring. Dead Silence is an honorable mention.
I was about to say another mention is... Damn, I forgot it.
Sorry, viewers.
So what is it? Oh my
I don't know. I
gosh.
can't read your mind.
Where they
Pray.
where they wear masks.
Strangers?
Strangers.
That's the
dude.
one I watched by myself. And
Strangers
at night
was so
movies.
good. Yeah.
with the lights
So,
off.
It was creepy, but I remember watching it with you and your brother. Shout out to your brother. Because it was funny because in the movie theaters, it was a large crowd. There was people like screaming like, "Don't go in the room!
Yeah.
Don't go! He's right behind you!"
It was so good.
It was funny. It was cool.
good.
It was a cool experience.
Yeah, it was good.
But yeah, those are, I guess, the top.
But it's scary because it can happen too.
It can
Yeah.
happen too, man. That's what I'm saying. You just never know. People are crazy. You don't know what the heck they're being influenced. But yeah, so that's guess we're gonna finish with that. The origins of Halloween. You choose what you want to do with this information. You can look. I strongly recommend, highly suggest for people to kind of look up their own research or do their own research and look up their own information. And it's up to you what you want to decide with this information. But we just kind of like to inform people. And again, this may seem far-fetched, or too like stretching. If you're just like, all right, you're it's a little absurd what you're talking about,
Right.
but man, you just never know.
But not only that, let us know in the comments below what your favorite movie or what movie traumatized y'all.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot.
Heck yeah.
Comment what you think. What you think about the origins of Halloween. Your top 3 scariest movies, whether you like them or you hate them. I don't touch anything. I try not to touch anything to do with possession because,
Right.
I know I have, the Holy Spirit in me, and I just, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. But sometimes you become sensitive to many things. So you just got to be careful.
Yeah, definitely.
influenced, you know. So, but yeah. So any other questions or anything? Good.
I'm good.
All right. So for the next time, we're gonna keep talking a little bit more about Halloween, or you know, other topics too. All these rabbit holes we can get
Right.
into. Just you know, little by little, because like I said, we could be here all night.
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
can.
all these from Bohemian Grove, George Bush, all these other elitists and things. You know, why they sacrifice children, why they believe there's so much in the bloodlines, like the 13 bloodlines.
Yeah.
You know, the elite. I can't say the other word because I know we might be get canceled or something. But yeah, it's just there's so much happening behind closed doors, and you know, again, the origins of Halloween is not, you know, in the light. It's more in the darkness. But to each their own. You know, we don't try to, I guess, tell people what to do, but you know, to each their own.
For sure.
But thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll hope you like the podcast. You know, let us know what you think in the comments. You know, again, your favorite scary movies, what you think of the origins, or if you have anything else to add on it, or what you think.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'll go from there.
Peace out.
Peace out.